Who needs clean water? Only every one of us and all of life on the planet, right? This is intuitive. I don't have to convince you of the importance of clean water. Who needs yarn? What? No one needs yarn. I'm crazy, right? I promise I'm not. What if we could inspire the protection of clean water using yarn? What if I told you that wool is magic? That crafting could be a superpower? That everything you thought about knitting was wrong? I'm going to show you what wool has to do with water. I bet you thought it was nothing. Maybe the better question would be, who needs art? Together with my friends and colleagues at Paul Smith College, we've been experimenting with using fiber art as a tool for environmental education. The inspiration for our work is clean water. What could be more important? Our beautiful campus sits on the shores of Lower St. Regis Lake, one of the thousands of lakes in the Adirondack Park, which also, by the way, has globally significant wetlands and more than 30,000 miles of rivers and streams. Glaciers were the architects of our landscapes, creating the rivers and streams. And from the original indigenous communities to the millions of visitors that come every year to kayak, paddle, fish, swim, our waters are vital to our region, critical to our identity, and creating a deep connection between us and the natural world. Water was the impetus for the creation of the Adirondack Park, and its protection is no less important today. But climate change, invasive species, road salt pollution, harmful algal blooms mean that we have to continue to work to protect our waterways. The Adirondack Watershed Institute at Paul Smith is at the forefront of that fight. We're working on it every day, and one of the tools we're using is art. Wool and Water is a data art project. We're combining fiber art with scientific information to tell the stories of our waterways in the Adirondack Park and the Lake Champlain Basin. To talk about what water quality means in our region, illustrate the threats to our waters, and inspire their stewardship and protection. We started in 2022 on the 50-year anniversary of the Clean Water Act, and the response has been amazing, and we've been stitching the story of water with fiber art ever since. Let me show you some examples. Climate change is one of the most important impacts on our waters and lands in the Adirondacks. Here's Greta, a record of global temperature anomalies in dress format, starting in 1880, read from the top to the bottom, and illustrating just how far we're getting away from long-term normals. In recent years, they are down at the bottom. A great statement piece, no? And the Champlain ice scarf. This record begins in 1816. Each row in this scarf is a year since then. The lighter colored rows are years in which the lake froze completely. The darker ones are years when the lake did not undergo a complete freeze, which is becoming more common in recent years. These changes impact our waters and their inhabitants, the ecosystem services that they provide for us, but also our cultural traditions. Ice Fishing Blues tells the story of warming winters and what that means for one of our most enduring winter traditions. This record begins in 1899. Each hole in that scarf is a winter since that time, or a hole in the ice if you see the world the way an ice fisherman does. The ones with blue around the edges are winters in which the mean temperature was above that at which we can safely hold ice fishing derbies and competitions. These wearable and colorful and tactile pieces let us tell a story in a different and interesting way. Road salt is used on our roads in the wintertime to make them safe. It also, unfortunately, gets into our waters. And this has negative consequences for our waters and their creatures. This is a problem in many cold climate regions across North America and beyond. Let me tell you about the power of some salted frogs on a log to get people to think about road salt and what it means for our amphibian communities and other creatures, ourselves included. Aquatic invasive species like zebra mussel, Asian clam, water chestnut, European frogbit have important impacts on our waters, and preventing their arrival and spread in our region is one of our most important and impactful activities. We talk about them at the boat launches with boaters. We give lectures, write reports. We do all of those things. But it turns out that nobody will stop you from putting them on a necklace or making them into beautiful pieces of wall art. Harmful algal blooms are gaining increasing attention in our region, driven in part by nutrient pollution. What if you had a harmful algal bloom bag, a HAB bag, to talk about harmful algal blooms? Each fuzzy dot in that bag is a HAB reported in Adirondack lakes since 2012. What if a beautiful shawl could be used to convey the conditions under which a HAB is likely to form? Sunlight, warm, calm waters, plus nutrients equals HAB. Imagine the conversations you could start. What if you could tell the story of nutrient pollution with a beautiful weaving of phosphorus data from a monitored tributary? Or use the tools of Irish crochet to illustrate the changing plankton communities in Lake Champlain and the increasing prevalence of cyanobacteria, or blue-green algae, also due in part to nutrient pollution. The power of these pieces has been tremendous for us. In just 2 years since the inception of Wool and Water, we've amassed a collection of more than 70 items, created by more than 30 active participants. We've exhibited all or parts of Wool and Water in more than 25 locations. We've held numerous events related to the project. We taught the entire 3rd grade at our local elementary school about acid rain in the Adirondacks using needle felting. Little kids don't even question the combination of science and art, they just get right into it. We've worked with the world-class Youth Climate Summit program here at the Wild Center to create collaborative art around climate change. I spend a lot of time thinking about what it is about this project that people find interesting and what brings them to it. And I think part of it is that it is participatory. This is an endeavor that we've invited anybody who wants to participate, to jump on the bandwagon with us. And lots of them have taken us up on it. Anne, Carolyn, Donna, Heidi, Hallie, Jen, Joy, Kirsten, Laura, Melinda, Michaeline, Nadia, Priscilla, Sarah, Renee, just a couple of examples. Except for my mom, blue shawl, bottom row, I knew very few of these people before we started the project. The collaborative nature of this encourages people to engage with an issue that they might be interested in through a craft that they probably already love doing. Knitters and crocheters love nothing more than making things together or celebrating a cause through their particular form of art. And we are by no means exclusive to those two crafts. Beaters, felters, punch needlers, rug hookers have all joined us as a part of this project. The point is in the making and the engaging and the conversations that have developed. All those things are magic. The medium of fiber, too, I think has a special magic. There's magic in the colors and the textures and the tactile nature of these pieces. There are endless ways to convey information. This is different from art that you put on a wall with a sign that says, please don't touch. In fact, I often say, please do touch. Wool is an incredible fiber, as are many of the natural fibers that we've endeavored to use in this project. Have you ever met a sheep? Or an Angora goat like my friend Norman? They've been wearing this stuff in all kinds of weather for eons. If you've ever had a real wool sweater, you know that it will last you a lifetime. Art made of wool is art to touch and feel. Smush between your fingers, rub against your face, and then go away and figure out how you can make your own. There's another aspect to this magic that I had only a vague sense of and wasn't good at articulating until I'd had a conversation with a friend about it. And she did a much better job of explaining it than me, but essentially what she said is that these pieces are powerful and beautiful and appeal to multiple senses, but they're also difficult. They remove complacency. We can no longer claim to not understand the issue once we've seen them. But the magic is that we don't mind so much in this format. It's easier to see those difficult truths in a form like this. The pieces are beautiful and gentle and extremely powerful at the same time, just like nature. Yarn crafts are also global. They're practiced all over the world with wonderful regional flavors and varieties, but a universal understanding and an enormous community around the planet. Their social network has members from more than 200 countries or territories. More than 30,000 of them descend on Dutchess County, a few hours south of here, every year for the annual New York Sheep and Wool Festival, one of the biggest of its kind. More than 1,000 of them just went to the Shetland Islands a few weeks ago for Wool Week. This is more than your average attendance at a scientific conference. This is a craft that will bring people together, even when it means multiple forms of transportation to a tiny island archipelago high up in the North Sea, not too far from the Arctic Circle. And one last but most excellent thing about yarn crafts, and that is that they have a history of subversion. And they offer us a chance to keep that tradition of craftivism alive. Yarn crafts were instrumental in the Revolutionary War in this country, when women's knitting for soldiers helped free us from the tyranny of imported British goods. In World War II also, there's an overlap between knitting and espionage. Stitch patterns could be used to hide secret codes. The seemingly innocuous stereotype of a woman knitting could be used to cover more clandestine activities. Phyllis Latour Doyle, a British secret agent who at the age of 23 parachuted into occupied Normandy to gather intelligence in advance of D-Day, for years kept secret messages encoded on a piece of silk that she tucked into the balls of yarn in her knitting kit. Nobody ever asked to see what was in her knitting kit. Today's equivalents of these heroes might be our friends at the Tempestry Project, who have galvanized the whole planet to create daily temperature records and have taken them to state capitals and into the offices of congressmen and women. You may all recall a very famous hat that was made by the thousands and worn in the Women's March in January of 2017. So back to the beginning. Take yarn plus craft plus science, mix that together with collaboration, and what you get just might surprise you. Our goal is to foster and inspire the kinds of conversations that enhance understanding of our waters, the recognition that they are faced by some of the most pressing environmental challenges of our time, and how rising to those challenges can provide solutions that help us protect this most vital part of our identity. When we ask people what it is about this project that draws them in, that makes them interested, it is always the combination of science and art together that's the top answer. Perhaps more powerfully, almost all of them report that as a result of this project, they learned more about watershed science, about how to interpret environmental data, and they've been inspired to take actions to protect clean water. I hope that you are also inspired, or at least curious. I'm certain that if you are not a knitter or a crocheter or a felter or a punch needler, I'm sure you know someone who is. After encountering our project and some of the pieces at the Adirondack Museum this past July, we overheard a little boy tell his grandma that he wanted to learn how to crochet. If I can inspire a little boy to do anything for even 5 minutes, that involves no computer screen whatsoever. I consider that to be a tremendous success. So maybe you will take a look, get involved. We would love to have you. And if not this issue or this particular craft, try your hand at another. Behold the power of human creativity and the act of making that can inspire us to change the world. Our brains are hardwired both to respond to and to want to create beauty. It's an untapped natural resource. We should harness it. Thank you.